Hey, everybody, Patrick Varano here. For those of you that don't know, I'm the host of the podcast Learning from Leaders. I also am the CEO of Emory Leadership Group and also the current author of The Leadership Bridge. And many of the LinkedIn Lives that I do actually all have some connection back to the book that I wrote, The Leadership Bridge. And that's because to me, for us to be able to engage employees or drive organizational excellence, there are things that we need to do. And in this episode, what I wanted to talk about was behaviors. And I'm guessing I'm not the only one that's experienced or seen what seems to be an increase in poor behaviors. And one of the most, I think, damaging things that I've seen is our lack of tolerance for anything that goes against what we're thinking about. And really, I think over the last 2.5 years, I keep saying 2, and I realize that time keeps going on, it's longer than that now. But really, ever since COVID came about and we went into these, isolation protocols, that have lasted in different ways all the way through to today, I believe these have really created an environment that has, promoted intolerance. And the 2 things that I have often thought about in this regards, one is isolation and the other is idleness. And I think the 2 went hand in hand and go hand in hand in regards to creating environments where we become less tolerant. We're not able to look at people other than just a one-dimensional post that they might have or viewpoint because we're isolated. We don't spend time with people that are not like us. And when that happens, we only look at people as one dimensional. They have a certain viewpoint, certain political point, and therefore that's all that they are. And in reality, we're much more than that, right? I know people on all spectrums of the political sphere, and when I'm around them outside of just what might be posted or what the label is of that person, there's more to them, right? There's more to them, and to me, that is what allows us to, I think, tolerate um, different viewpoints when it's not just a post, right? If it's just a post, that's all we see of that person. So the two things that really I think about in this regard is to how do we identify bad behaviors, the root cause of some of these, and then how do we change it? There are two things that I wanted to talk about today, and one is confirmation bias, and the other is an influence principle called liking, or some might call it similarity. But how important that is for us to recognize the importance of that. So the first is around confirmation bias, and the importance of understanding confirmation bias is that we will tend to, as it relates to confirmation bias, we look to all of the pieces of evidence that will validate our belief, what we're thinking about. However, we won't really take into consideration all of those things that go outside of that belief, and that's the confirmation bias that we all can be challenged with at times. So if we think about it in terms of going back to COVID and whether it was vaccines or masks, right? That there is a confirmation bias on both sides of this. That if you have certain beliefs, either way, you're gonna you're gonna look for all of the evidence that backs up why your position is correct. Nobody takes a position they think that they are wrong. They do it because they think that they're right. And when confirmation bias really digs in, it forces us to look at just the things that that validate where we're going. And we will discount all the other things that might not be in alignment with what our beliefs are. We all have them. And I think that's really important for us to recognize. In terms of organizationally, where does this happen? If I have a certain belief on somebody, I think that they are difficult to get along with, or maybe I think they're really easy to get along with, then what I tend to do in those situations is I will look for the evidence that validates my position on this person, what I do think of them. And we can see this in organizations where somebody might switch departments. And if somebody is joining a new department and somebody says, "Oh, wait until you get Sue or Jim in your department. They are so difficult to deal with." Well, when that happens, in some regards, the die has already been cast on this individual because um, unless I take a step back and say maybe that is who this person is, maybe they're not. What I am automatically alerted to, especially if it's wait till you have to deal with Jim. He's a gruff, difficult individual to deal with. That what will tend to happen is I will look for the evidence that backs up why Jim is difficult to deal with. And it can be very hard for us to get out of that loop unless we're first aware of how confirmation bias can take hold. I think back several years ago when we moved into the neighborhood that we're in, it's probably 5 years ago now. There was a neighbor across the street, and he was he was a very private individual, didn't come out much. And I remember people saying, "Oh, so and so is a really difficult person to get along with. They're not really very friendly at all." And at first, my guard is up when I see this person. Um, One day during a snowstorm, he was away, and a couple things happened. One is we were getting ready to do a Christmas party, so I left an invitation in his mailbox for him to come to our Christmas party. We had just joined this neighborhood, and I thought it'd be a nice way to sort of make a gesture. The other thing that I did was I actually opened up the end of his driveway after a snowstorm. He was away, um, and I knew that I just opened it up as a friendly gesture. Well, our Christmas party came. Now, he never responded, I never saw him again, but all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and he happened to, drop off a bottle of wine for us. Said he couldn't stay for the party, but wanted to drop off a bottle of wine, and thanked us for the invitation. From that point on, whenever we saw each other outside, we would have these just sort of quick conversations. And the point was is that if I had just gone off of what I was told from neighbors that this is not a person you want to deal with, he's not friendly, um, I would have missed all those opportunities to share what to me were very enjoyable conversations. And they went on until he moved out of the neighborhood about 3 years later, where he would drop over different things that he thought our kids might be interested in, concerts that were going on. But this person had a lot more substance to them than I think many had led us to believe, or certainly would have if we had not, or I had not taken that opportunity to look at him differently. That's the first part, right? Confirmation bias, and I think we need to recognize how powerful that can be. The second is around liking and how powerful that principle is. And I had the good fortune of going through a workshop in Arizona through Dr. Robert Cialdini. He's one of the world experts in influence. And one of the 6 principles that he has identified in influence is around liking. And again, you might hear it as something along the lines of similarity, but oftentimes we will talk about it in terms of liking. And what liking is when we try and connect with people, we generally like people that are like us. So what we try and do is making connections with people. And we can't do that one dimensionally, right? That if it's just a post that I read on somebody, I'm not able to get a lot of substance on who this person is. But when I'm around them, or I try and integrate more with other people, I'm able to see different perspectives on people, and maybe look for things that we do have similarities in. Maybe it's we share a friend group if we're in social media. Maybe we went to similar schools. Maybe our kids go to similar schools or play similar sports. Um, there are a number of different things. We have shared interests that we like doing. These things are all so valuable for us. And this principle of liking is so important for us, I think, to change our own perspective on how we look at other people. That really the challenge for us is to look at what is it about this person that I do like? Not what don't I like about them, right? That's easy enough for us to do. But to try and find out what are some of the things that I like about this person. And this goes back into, I guess, confirmation bias as well. As if you think about it, if I change the perspective as to what don't I like about this person, and I frame shift that, I change that to what do I like about this person, what I'm going to be able to do is, again, look for evidence that backs up why this person is nice, or we do, there is an opportunity for us to have a relationship, or that I do like them. That again, we all have these, I would say, threads that we can find, and it's so valuable for us to look for those. What are things that we do share? Um, I would say at the very least, when we're making connection with people, if they have families, they probably love their kids the same way I love my kids, or at least that's what I want to think, right? That um, we do share things. We want the best for our families. We want to be happy, right? We can both share that. We might look at it in terms of how we get there differently, but we do both want very similar things. And when I do work for organizations in regards to conflict, productive conflict, developing productive conflict, oftentimes what I will try and challenge people to do is let's peel this thing back to the point of something that we both agree that we want. And when we can start from that place of saying we really both want the same thing, we both want to be happy. We both want to feel as though we have control over our destiny or our environment, or that we're recognized for our efforts. When we can come back to that, then that allows us to find a way to move forward. How do we get there based on what we agree on, or what I believe we agree on. I think we are in this period of time where our lack of consistently being around other people, too much of just social media, even Zoom calls, that we don't spend enough time of really seeing the multiple threads that are involved in people. The more time we're going to be intolerant, and we really need to challenge ourselves to find ways to overcome confirmation bias and also to activate liking. Those are the two things that I think, if we really spend some time doing that, it will allow us to open up and again, be more tolerant, more open, more curious of where other people are coming from. So I hope you found this beneficial. If you want to go deeper into this, again, the book that I wrote recently, the Leadership Bridge, is available on Amazon. I take a deeper dive into this. I think we all have the ability to build better bridges with those people around us, and quite frankly, we need to. Um, we need to do a better job of looking at ways that we can come together, not breaking down bridges, which I think is happening far too much lately. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you're able to look a little deeper into confirmation bias, as well as how do you activate liking.